Captain Adrian Blackwell had been sitting in the officer's mess for exactly 22 minutes, listening to Lieutenant Commander Ryan Morrison explain for the third time why female pilots would never have the instincts for real air-to-air combat. She had counted each repetition of his favorite story, the one about the near miss over the Persian Gulf, that somehow became more dramatic with every telling. Adrian smiled politely, nodded in the right places, said absolutely nothing about the 11 enemy aircraft she had shot down across 3 classified deployments. Sometimes it was easier to let people believe what they wanted to believe. Ryan leaned back in his chair, hands behind his head, addressing the table of junior pilots, like a professor lecturing undergraduates. His flight suit was immaculate, his call sign Hawk embroidered in gold thread above the pocket. Expensive, customized. The kind of detail that told you everything you needed to know about a pilot before they ever climbed into a cockpit. The problem, Ryan continued, is reaction time under G-forces. When you're pulling 9 Gs and your vision is tunneling, you need raw physical strength combined with split-second decision-making. It's not sexist, it's biology. Adrian took a sip of her coffee. Terrible coffee. The kind that had been sitting on the burner for 3 hours, bitter and burnt. She had learned to drink it without flinching. Across the table, Lieutenant Kara Sullivan shifted uncomfortably. Kara was 24, fresh from advanced training, one of only 2 female pilots in the squadron. She had talent. Adrian had watched her fly, seen the natural grace in her maneuvers, the instinctive understanding of energy, states that couldn't be taught. But Kara sat silent now, staring at her plate, unwilling to challenge the narrative being constructed around her. Adrian understood that silence. She had perfected it. Ryan was warming to his subject now. I'm not saying women can't fly. Obviously they can. But there's a difference between flying a tanker or a cargo bird and being in a knife fight at 20,000 feet with someone trying to kill you. One of the younger pilots, fresh-faced and eager, piped up. But sir, weren't there female pilots in the Gulf War? Support roles, Ryan said dismissively. Transport, reconnaissance. Nobody's questioning whether women can follow a flight plan. I'm talking about combat, real combat. When your wingman is down and you're alone against 3 bandits and there's no time to think, only react. Adrienne set down her coffee cup with deliberate care. The ceramic made a soft click against the table. Nobody noticed. She had been in that exact situation 7 months ago. Syrian airspace. 3 MiG-29s that had broken through the combat air patrol. She had splashed all 3 in 4 minutes using 2 missiles and her 20mm cannon. The engagement had been so clean, so precise, that the strike package commander had recommended her for a distinguished flying cross. The recommendation was still classified, just like her 11 kills, just like her actual assignment to Al-Azad Air Base. On paper, Captain Adrian Blackwell was a logistics coordination officer. She reviewed supply chains, coordinated equipment transfers, and generated reports that nobody read. It was deliberately boring work that gave her access to everything while attracting attention to nothing. In reality, she was forward-deployed intelligence gathering information on enemy air capabilities while maintaining her flight proficiency during classified night missions that officially never happened. The base commander knew. A handful of senior officers knew. Everyone else saw what they expected to see: a competent but unremarkable captain who pushed papers and occasionally asked annoying questions about fuel consumption rates. It was the perfect cover, at least until moments like this when she had to sit and listen to men explain her own profession to her. Ryan was still talking. And the reflexes thing isn't just about speed, it's about aggression. When you see the shot, you have to take it. No hesitation, no second guessing. That killer instinct, that's what separates the good pilots from the great ones. Adrian thought about her last kill. A Sukhoi Su-25 low and fast returning from a strike mission. She had stalked it for 6 minutes, waiting for the perfect firing solution, letting it think it was safe. 1 missile, 1 kill. The pilot never knew she was there. Patience wasn't the absence of aggression. It was aggression perfected. Her father had taught her that. Before the accident, before everything changed. The memory surfaced unbidden. Captain David Blackwell, F-16 pilot, 23 years of service, dead at 46 in a training accident that should never have happened. Adrian had been 20 years old halfway through her own flight training when she got the call. The official report called it pilot error, equipment malfunction, a tragic combination of factors. Adrian knew the truth. Her father had been one of the few instructors who advocated for female combat pilots. He had made enemies, created friction, and when the pressure became too much, when the hostile environment wore him down, his focus slipped. Just for a second, just long enough. She had learned two things from her father's death. First, that speaking up could get you killed. Second, that excellence was the only argument worth making. Colonel James Maddox had taught her the rest. Ghost Maddox, her father's squadron mate from the Gulf War. 47 confirmed kills flying F-15s in the early 90s. A legend who had retired in 2005 after a classified incident that left him with radiation exposure and a slow-growing cancer that would eventually claim him. Ghost had found Adrian after the funeral, told her that her father had been the finest pilot he had ever known, told her that if she wanted to honor his memory, she would finish what he started. Ghost had trained her in secret for 3 years, taught her everything he knew about air combat, the tactics that weren't in the manuals, the psychological warfare, the art of reading an opponent's intentions before they knew them themselves. Let them underestimate you, Ghost had said, then show them what you're made of. So she had become quiet, invisible, the logistics officer who never caused problems and rarely spoke up. While at night in classified missions over hostile territory, she became Viper. 11 kills across Syria, Yemen, and Libya against some of the best trained enemy pilots in the world, all without anyone in her own squadron knowing who she really was. Ryan Morrison certainly didn't know. He was still talking, his voice rising with conviction. That's why you don't see female fighter aces, he said. Not because they're not trying, but because when the moment comes when it's kill or be killed, the biology just isn't there. Adrian checked her watch. 25 minutes now. She wondered how much longer this would continue. The answer came in the form of a klaxon. The alarm shattered the comfortable atmosphere of the mess hall like a hammer through glass. Deep, pulsing, urgent. The kind of sound that made your blood turn cold even if you had heard it 100 times before. Then the bass speakers crackled to life. Scramble, scramble, scramble! Incoming enemy strike package. Multiple bogies inbound. All available aircraft. Immediate launch. This is not a drill. The mess hall erupted. Pilots jumped to their feet, chairs scraping against linoleum. Coffee cups abandoned. Conversations cut mid-sentence. The practiced chaos of combat alertness taking over. Ryan was on his feet instantly, his earlier swagger replaced by focused intensity. This was what he trained for, what they all trained for. He looked at Adrian with what he probably thought was a reassuring smile. Finally, some real action. He grabbed his flight bag from beside his chair. Don't worry, we've got this. You should probably head to the shelter. Adrian stood slowly. Her own flight bag was already in her hand. She always kept it within reach. Always. She said quietly, I think I'll head to the flight line. Ryan paused confused. Why you a crew chief or something? She paused at the doorway, looked back at him, allowed herself the smallest smile. Or something. Then she was moving, her stride lengthening as she left the building. Behind her, she could hear Ryan and the other pilots scrambling for their gear, their voices overlapping in urgent communication. She paid them no attention. The flight line was controlled chaos. Ground crews swarmed over aircraft pulling chocks, running final checks. Pilots sprinted from the operations building, already half into their flight suits, survival vests bouncing against their chests. The tower was broadcasting on all frequencies, the controller's voice professionally calm despite the situation. Unknown aircraft bearing 270 range 80 miles closing fast. Multiple contacts. Estimate 12 to 15 aircraft in main strike package. 12 to 15, a full attack formation. Someone was coming at Al-Azad Air Base with serious intent. Adrian moved through the chaos with practiced calm. She knew exactly where she was going. Aircraft Revetment 7, the hardened shelter that housed her F-16C tail number 471. The aircraft marked with generic numbers and no unit insignia, the one that officially didn't exist. Master Sergeant Dale Porter was already there, a stocky man in his early 50s with graying temples and the efficient movements of someone who had done this job for 30 years. He was pulling the wheel chocks, his practiced hands moving through the pre-flight inspection with speed born of muscle memory. He saw Adrian approaching and straightened, didn't salute. Too much of a tell for who she really was, but his relief was obvious. "Ma'am," he said, "thought you might be stuck in the admin building." "Not today, Sergeant." Adrian was already climbing the ladder, her hands moving automatically through the cockpit check. "Status: full fuel load, full combat loadout, 4 AM 120 AMRAAMs, 2 AM 9X Sidewinders, full 20mm ammunition. Aircraft is code 1 and ready to kill things, ma'am." "Outstanding." She settled into the ejection seat, the familiar embrace of the harness closing around her. "Clear me out as soon as I have power." The F-16 had been her aircraft for 8 years. She knew every sound, every vibration, every quirk of the fly-by-wire system. This particular jet tail number 471 had been with her for 3 years and 17 kills. Some pilots named their aircraft. Adrian preferred to let the kill markers speak for themselves. Her hands moved through the startup sequence automatically. Battery on, JFS start. The gauges came alive, needles swinging through their arcs. The Pratt & Whitney F-110 turbofan engine began its distinctive whine, building from a whisper to a roar. Through her canopy, she could see other F-16s beginning to taxi. Ryan was in the lead, his aircraft marked with his call sign and an elaborate shark-mouth paint job that violated about 6 different regulations. "Of course," her radio crackled. "All available aircraft, this is Tower. Enemy strike package now bearing 265 range, 60 miles, closing at 480 knots. We have visual identification, MiG-29 Fulcrums, approximately 14 aircraft in 2 groups. MiG-29s, Russian-built, highly capable air superiority fighters. Fast maneuverable, flown by pilots who had been training for exactly this kind of strike mission. This wasn't going to be easy. Adrian switched to the tactical frequency. "Tower Viper checking in, ready for taxi." There was a pause, then a different voice. Colonel Sarah Hendricks, the base commander. One of the handful who knew. "Viper Falcon lead, authenticate Alpha 79er. Adrian pulled out her authentication card, found the daily code. "Authenticate Bravo 33. Confirmed. Viper, you are weapons-free and cleared for combat operations. Give them hell." "Roger that." She taxied out behind the main formation, watching Ryan and his wingmen take the active runway. They launched in pairs, afterburners blazing like dragon's breath, climbing hard toward the intercept. Adrian waited her turn, ran her final combat checks. Radar operational. Weapon systems armed. Targeting pod active. Countermeasures loaded and ready. Communications encrypted and secure. Everything was green. "Viper, you are cleared for takeoff. Runway 27, winds 250 at 15, altimeter 29.92, good hunting." Viper rolling. She advanced the throttle to military power. Felt the F-16 strain against the brakes like a thoroughbred in the starting gate. Then she released them and slammed the throttle into afterburner. The aircraft leaped forward with 29,000 pounds of thrust. The acceleration pinned her back into the seat, familiar and violent and perfect. Airspeed building. 80 knots, 100, 120, 140. She rotated smoothly at 150 knots. The F-16 left the runway like it had been launched from a catapult, clawing for altitude. Gear up, flaps up, accelerating through 300 knots, climbing hard, turning to intercept bearing. Viper airborne, heading 270, climbing to Angels 20. Copy Viper, be advised Falcon flight is engaging. Multiple bandits inbound. This is going to get messy. Messy was an understatement. At 20,000 feet, Adrian could see the battlefield developing on her radar display. Ryan and his 3 wingmen were vectoring to intercept the main enemy formation. 12 MiG-29s in 2 groups of 6 approaching in textbook Soviet-style combat formation. But her radar was showing something else. 4 additional contacts, lower and faster, taking a wide flanking route that would bring them in behind the base's defenders while everyone was focused on the main threat. Adrian felt her pulse quicken, not from fear, from recognition. Classic hammer and anvil. The main formation was the anvil, obvious, threatening, demanding attention. These four flankers were the hammers sneaking in while everyone was distracted, ready to strike the base while its defenses were engaged elsewhere. Except nobody else had seen them yet. The flankers were flying low using terrain masking and electronic warfare to hide from the base's ground radar. But Adrienne's F-16 had some upgrades that weren't in any official documentation, including a radar system that was a generation ahead of what anyone expected. She keyed her mic. Falcon-led Viper. I have 4 additional bandits bearing 245 range 40 miles Angels, 5 speed, 520 knots. They're flanking low while you engage the main force. Ryan's voice came back strained with the G-forces of combat maneuvering. Negative Viper. We only show the main group. You sure about that? Positive. I'm breaking off to engage the flankers. You handle the main force. Wait, who authorized Colonel Hendricks cut in? She's authorized Falcon lead. Viper weapons free on the flankers. Keep them off our base. Roger. Viper engaging. Adrian rolled inverted and pulled hard, diving toward the deck and vectoring to intercept the flanking group. 4 MiG-29s flown by pilots good enough to sneak past the base defenses. This was going to be interesting. At 10,000 feet, she leveled off and went supersonic. The F-16 punched through Mach 1 with barely a shudder, the airframe rock solid even at maximum speed. Her radar locked onto the lead MiG at 35 miles. The enemy pilots still didn't know she was there. They were maintaining radio silence, focused on their attack run, confident in their stealth approach. Adrienne armed her AAM-120 AMRAAM missiles, advanced medium-range air-to-air missiles with active radar guidance. Fire and forget technology that let her engage multiple targets quickly. At 30 miles, she achieved radar lock on the lead MiG. The targeting computer confirmed the solution. Good lock, valid target, weapon ready. Fox 3, she called, squeezing the trigger. The AMRAAM dropped from the rail. Its rocket motor ignited, accelerating the missile to Mach 4 in seconds. It streaked away on a white contrail, tracking toward the lead MiG with mechanical precision. She didn't wait to see if it hit. She was already locking the second MiG. Lock. Fox 3, second missile away. Third MiG. Lock. Fox 3. 3 missiles in the air in less than 15 seconds. The enemy pilots still had no idea they were being hunted until the first missile hit. The lead MiG exploded in a fireball visible from 40 miles away, pieces of aircraft tumbling through the sky like burning confetti. The formation immediately broke, pilots recognizing they were under attack and scattering in different directions. Break right, we have missiles inbound. The enemy flight leader's voice came across the tactical frequency, panic clear even through the thick accent. Second missile impact. Another MiG transformed into falling debris and flame-trailing smoke as it spun toward the desert floor. But the third missile missed. The target MiG had gone into a violent defensive break, dumping flares and chaff while pulling maximum Gs. The AMRAAM's seeker head was confused by the countermeasures, and the missile detonated harmlessly several hundred meters away. No problem. Adrienne had planned for this. The fourth MiG was trying to run, going to full afterburner and diving for the deck where ground clutter might hide him from her radar. But Adrienne's lock held firm, the upgraded system cutting through the interference. Fourth AMRAAM away. Fox 3. This missile tracked perfectly. The MiG pilot's defensive maneuvers came too late. The warhead detonated just behind the aircraft's shrapnel, tearing through the tailplane and engine. The MiG began trailing smoke and fire, its flight path becoming erratic. Mayday! Mayday! I'm hit, ejecting. The pilot punched out his ejection seat, rocketing him clear of the dying aircraft seconds before it impacted the ground in a ball of flame. 3 down, 1 remaining. The surviving MiG pilot was good. He had recognized what was happening and gone immediately into offensive mode, turning hard toward Adrienne, his F-16, trying to get a missile shot before she could engage him. Adrienne saw the move coming. This pilot wasn't panicking. He was fighting back. Dangerous. Her radar warning receiver screamed. The MiG had achieved radar lock and was launching. Defending. Adrienne broke hard left, pulling 9 Gs that made her vision gray at the edges despite her anti-G suit. She punched out chaff and flares, filling the sky with countermeasures while destroying the MiG's targeting solution with violent maneuvering. The enemy missile, a Russian R-77, streaked past close enough that she could see its fins. Too close. Both aircraft were now in a turning fight, each trying to get into firing position. This was old-school dogfighting, the kind that happened when long-range missiles failed and you had to kill the enemy with short-range weapons or guns. Adrian's training took over. The F-16 was lighter and more maneuverable than the MiG-29, but only if flown perfectly. She needed to force an overshoot, make the MiG pilot push too hard, and blow past her, giving her the angle for a shot. She went vertical. The F-16 climbing straight up under full afterburner, trading speed for altitude. The MiG followed both aircraft locked in a vertical scissors, each pilot trying to force the other to make a mistake. At 15,000 feet, Adrian rolled inverted at the top of her climb and pulled through, converting altitude back into speed as she dove. The MiG tried to follow but made the critical error. Pulled too hard, bled off too much energy. Adrian had her opening. She rolled right, pulling into a hard lag pursuit that put her on the MiG's tail, but offset to prevent the enemy pilot from reversing the situation. The targeting pipper in her heads-up display tracked across the enemy aircraft. AM-9X Sidewinder, close-range infrared missile, impossible to defeat once locked. Tone, lock acquired. Fox 2, the Sidewinder leapt off the rail, tracking flawlessly. The MiG pilot saw it coming, tried to break, dumped flares desperately. But the AM-9X was a generation ahead of anything the enemy expected. Its imaging infrared seeker ignored the flares and tracked the MiG's hot engine exhaust with perfect precision. Impact. The warhead detonated against the MiG's left engine. The aircraft tumbled out of control, fire streaming from the destroyed power plant. Adrian watched long enough to see the pilot eject successfully. Then she was already scanning for new threats, her head on a swivel, checking her radar, verifying the tactical picture. 4 MiGs engaged, 4 MiGs destroyed. Time elapsed 11 minutes. She keyed her radio. Falcon lead Viper, 4 flankers splashed. I'm Winchester on AMRAAMs, but still have 2 Sidewinders and guns. Status of main force. Ryan's voice came back, and for the first time it held something besides dismissal. Something like respect. Viper Falcon led. You just killed 4 bandits, solo. Affirmative. What's your status? We've engaged the main force, splash 3, but we're outnumbered and they're pressing hard. We could use holy shit break, left. The radio erupted with the chaos of combat. Warnings, callouts, missile launches. The main force engagement wasn't going well. Adrian checked her fuel. Enough for another 15 minutes of combat, maybe 20 if she was conservative. Falcon lead Viper inbound your position. Hold on. She turned hard, lighting afterburner, racing toward the main engagement. The furball was a swirling mass of contrails and smoke trails, 12 aircraft trying to kill each other in the same piece of sky. 2 parachutes drifted down. 1 friendly, 1 enemy. Her radar showed the tactical situation immediately. Ryan and his remaining 2 wingmen were separated, outnumbered 6-3, fighting for their lives. The MiGs were pressing aggressively, their numerical advantage, allowing them to attack from multiple angles. She needed to change the equation. Fast. Falcon Flight Viper entering the fight from southwest. Stay clear of my 12 o'clock. She came in fast, identified the nearest MiG, harassing Ryan's wingman. The enemy pilot was so focused on his target that he never saw Adrian's F-16 drop in behind him. Guns, 20mm cannon, old school. She squeezed the trigger. The M61 Vulcan cannon roared, spewing 6,000 rounds per minute of high-explosive ammunition. The targeting computer guided her fire perfectly, rounds walking up the MiG's fuselage, shattering the canopy and destroying the aircraft's hydraulics. The MiG fell away, the pilot ejecting immediately. Splash 5, Adrian called calmly, already turning to engage the next threat. The MiG pilots suddenly realized they had a new problem. Their tactical advantage evaporated as Adrian tore through their formation, her F-16 appearing and disappearing in the chaos of combat like a ghost. Another MiG appeared in her gun sight. She fired. Hit. The enemy aircraft spun away, trailing smoke. Splash 6. Now the enemy pilots were in full defensive mode, breaking off their attacks to deal with this new threat. But Adrian had spent years studying Soviet-style fighter tactics. She knew how they thought, how they moved, how they reacted to pressure. She used that knowledge ruthlessly. An enemy pilot tried to reverse on her, pulling into a vertical scissors. She went with him, let him think he was gaining position, then snap-rolled in a maneuver that put her instantly on his tail. Last Sidewinder. Lock acquired. Fox 2. Kill. Splash 7. The remaining MiGs broke off and ran diving for the deck and heading for the border at maximum speed. They had had enough. 12 aircraft had entered this battle space. 7 were destroyed. 5 were retreating with their tails between their legs. Falcon lead Viper. Bandits are running. Do we pursue? Colonel Hendrick's voice came through firm and decisive. Negative Viper, let them go. I want you and Falcon Flight back on deck. Good work. Adrian did a final tactical scan, confirmed no remaining threats, and turned for home. Her fuel was getting low and her ammunition was exhausted. Time to land, rearm, and be ready for round 2 if it came. As she turned final approach, she could see the runway and the crowd gathered by the operations building. Word had apparently spread about what had just happened. She landed smoothly, taxied in, and shut down the engine. The familiar whine of the turbofans spooling down. The cockpit suddenly quiet after the violence of combat. When she climbed out of the cockpit, the entire squadron was there. Ground crews, maintenance personnel, pilots in their flight suits, all staring. Ryan Morrison was in front. His expression was a mixture of embarrassment and awe. "You're Viper," he said flatly. Not a question, a statement. The Viper, 11 kills over Syria, 6 over Yemen. Adrian removed her helmet, shook out her hair from its regulation bun, looked him directly in the eye. "Was 11, she said quietly. "It's 15 now." She looked around at the assembled pilots, at Kara Sullivan standing with her mouth open, at the junior pilots who had been in the mess hall listening to Ryan's lecture, at the crew chiefs and maintenance personnel who had never known what the quiet logistics officer really did at night. Anyone have a problem with female pilots not having the instincts for real air-to-air combat? Silence, complete and total silence. "Good," Adrian said. "Then let's debrief this mission and figure out how they got so close without our early warning systems catching them. Because that's the real problem we need to solve." She walked toward the operations building, her flight suit still damp with sweat, her hands still steady. Behind her, the squadron watched in stunned silence. They hadn't known she was an F-16 pilot until enemy attack forced her to reveal 15 kills in one mission. Now they knew, and everything was about to change. The debriefing lasted 3 hours. Adrienne stood at the front of the operations briefing room, a laser pointer in her hand, walking the entire squadron through the engagement frame by frame. The walls were lined with screens showing radar tracks, flight recorder data, gun camera footage. Every moment of the battle preserved in digital clarity. She had changed out of her sweat-soaked flight suit into a fresh uniform, but fatigue pulled at her shoulders. The adrenaline crash after combat was always the hardest part. Your body demanding rest while your mind still raced with the velocity of a missile. "Contact 1, she said, advancing the slide. "Lead flanker, range 30 miles when I achieved radar lock. Speed 520 knots. He was flying NOE nap of the Earth using terrain masking to avoid ground radar." The image showed the radar return a faint blip that most systems would have filtered out as noise. "The key was recognizing the pattern," Adrienne continued. 4 aircraft in tactical spread formation. Too precise to be random. Too coordinated to be anything but a deliberate flanking maneuver. Ryan Morrison sat in the front row taking notes. His earlier swagger had evaporated, replaced by the focused attention of someone who understood he was in the presence of a master. He raised his hand. "Question. When you fired 3 MRAMs in 15 seconds, how did you manage target prioritization that quickly?" "I didn't prioritize in the moment," Adrian said. "I had already wargamed the engagement during my climb to altitude. Lead aircraft first because he's coordinating the attack. Numbers 2 and 3 simultaneously because they are following standard Soviet doctrine. Number 4 gets the 4th missile because he's the most likely to break and run." She clicked to the next slide. Gun camera footage of the vertical scissors with the surviving MiG. This is where experience matters more than speed. The MiG pilot was good, aggressive, but he was also predictable. He pulled maximum G at the top of every climb, which meant he was bleeding energy faster than he could recover it. Kara Sullivan leaned forward, her notebook filled with detailed sketches and notes. "How did you know he would make that mistake?" "Because that's how they train," Adrian said. "Maximum aggression, maximum performance. It works against average pilots, but against someone who understands energy management, it becomes a liability." I let him burn his speed, then converted my altitude advantage into position. She walked them through every decision, every tactic, every moment where she had gained or lost advantage. This wasn't just a debriefing. It was a master class. By the time she finished, even the maintenance crews who had stayed to watch were taking notes. Colonel Sarah Hendricks stood from her seat in the back. Outstanding work, Captain. You'll be recommended for the Silver Star, at minimum possibly the Air Force Cross, pending final review. Thank you, ma'am, but there's something more important we need to address. Adrienne clicked to a new slide, a map of Al-Azad Air Base with the enemy attack vectors overlaid. This wasn't a random strike. Look at the approach vectors. The main force came in from the northwest, exactly where our radar coverage has a documented gap due to terrain. The flankers used a route that avoided our remote sensor posts, and the timing was perfect, catching us during the shift change when our alert posture is historically at its lowest. The room went quiet. Someone told them exactly when and how to hit us, Adrian said. We have a leak. Hendricks nodded grimly. Intelligence reached the same conclusion. Captain Blackwell, given your logistics access and clearance level, I'm tasking you with leading the internal investigation. Find the leak. Yes, ma'am. As the room emptied, Ryan approached. He looked uncomfortable, like a man about to apologize for something he wasn't sure how to put into words. Captain Blackwell, I need to say something. Adrian closed her laptop, gave him her full attention. Go ahead. I was an idiot in the mess hall. Everything I said about female pilots, about reflexes and instincts, I was talking out of my ass. He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated with himself. I've been flying for 8 years, and I have 0 combat kills. 0. I talk about being in knife fights, but I've never been in one. You've been in dozens, and I never knew. That was intentional, Adrian said quietly. I needed to observe without being observed. Why let us think you were just a logistics officer? She considered how much to tell him, decided on the truth. Because when people underestimate you, they reveal who they really are. I learned more about this squadron's capabilities and weaknesses in 8 months of quiet observation than I would have in years of official evaluation. Ryan absorbed that. You were gathering intelligence on us. On everyone, friend and enemy. That's the job. And what did you learn about me? Adrian looked at him for a long moment. That you're a good pilot with solid fundamentals. That your confidence masks insecurity about never having been tested in real combat. That you tell the same stories repeatedly because you're trying to convince yourself as much as everyone else. Ryan flinched, but he didn't look away. You're also loyal to your wingmen, Adrian continued. You stayed in the fight when you could have run. You kept calling targets for your element even when you were outnumbered. Those things matter more than kill counts. But I need to be better. Yes, you do, and you can be. Will you teach me? Adrian picked up her laptop case. Be in briefing room 3 tomorrow at 0600. Bring your ego and be prepared to have it shattered. Ryan almost smiled. Yes, ma'am. Over the next week, Adrian established a routine that would have exhausted someone half her age. Days spent investigating the intelligence leak, reviewing access logs, interviewing personnel. Evenings running tactical training sessions for the squadron. Nights writing reports and preparing lesson plans. The investigation moved slowly at first. Access logs showed nothing obvious. Personnel records were clean. Financial audits revealed no suspicious transactions. Whoever was leaking information was good at covering their tracks. Then Adrian started looking at the logistics side. Her side. The boring paperwork that nobody paid attention to. Fuel consumption reports, equipment transfer requests, maintenance schedules. She found the anomaly in the communications logs. Someone had been accessing the classified network from an admin terminal in the supply building. Small data transfers. Nothing large enough to trigger automated alerts, but consistent every Tuesday and Friday for the past 6 months. The access credentials belonged to a civilian contractor named Robert Marsh, 43 years old, former Air Force communications specialist who had left the service 8 years ago. Clean background check. Unremarkable work history. Adrian pulled his financial records, found a series of payments from a shell company registered in Cyprus. $20,000 over 6 months. Not enough to be obvious. just enough to matter. She brought her findings to Colonel Hendricks. "How certain are you, Poe?" Hendricks asked. 90%. The access pattern matches. The financial trail is thin but present, and his terminal was the only one accessing mission planning data outside of normal duty hours. "Bring him in." They arrested Marsh that afternoon. He denied everything at first. Then the evidence mounted and his resistance crumbled. He admitted to providing intelligence to a foreign intermediary, base defense locations, aircraft deployment schedules, radar coverage gaps, everything the enemy needed to plan their strike. "Why?" Hendricks demanded during the interrogation. Marsh's face was pale, defeated. "My daughter, medical bills. The insurance wouldn't cover her treatment, and I was drowning in debt. They approached me online, said it was just routine intelligence gathering. Nothing that would get anyone killed." 14 MiGs attacked this base, Adrian said coldly. 7 pilots died. "Enemy pilots, yes, but still human beings with families. Because you gave them the keys to our front door." Marsh started crying. Adrian felt no sympathy. She had lost her father because someone created a hostile environment. Now people had died because someone else chose money over loyalty. The specifics were different. The betrayal was the same, but the arrest revealed something worse. Marsh's handlers knew about Adrienne now. They knew her capabilities. They knew she had killed 7 of their pilots in a single engagement, and they wanted revenge. The tactical training sessions became legendary in the squadron. Adrienne ran them every evening at 1800 hours. Attendance was mandatory for junior pilots, but everyone showed up. Even the maintenance crew started watching from the back. She taught them the way Ghost Maddox had taught her, not from textbooks or manuals, but from real engagements. She broke down historical air battles frame by frame, showed them where pilots made good decisions and where they made fatal mistakes. Korea, 1952. She said, showing footage of an F-86 Sabre fighting a MiG-15. "Watch the American pilot here. He has speed advantage and altitude advantage. The MiG pilot knows he's going to lose, so he does something desperate. The MiG reversed hard, pulling into an impossible turn that should have been fatal. The American pilot follows, natural instinct. Stay with your target, but watch what happens. The MiG's turn became a spin, uncontrolled. The American pilot overshot, unable to slow down quickly enough, and the 2 aircraft separated. The MiG recovered from the spin," Adrienne said. "The American pilot had to break off and return to base with no kill." "Why?" "Because he didn't recognize the desperation move. He saw aggression and responded with aggression. But the better move was patience. Let the MiG complete its death spiral, then re-engage when he's vulnerable." Kara Sullivan raised her hand. "But in the moment, how do you recognize a desperation move versus a legitimate tactic?" "Experience and understanding your opponent's energy state. That MiG was slow and low. He had no energy to trade. Any aggressive maneuver was going to cost him everything. The American pilot should have recognized that and waited." Ryan asked, How do you develop that recognition?" "By studying every engagement you can find. By flying against different opponents with different tactics. By making mistakes in training so you don't make them in combat." She pulled up her own gun camera footage from the engagement with the flankers. "Here, the last MiG pilot. Watch his first defensive break when I achieved lock." "What do you see?" The pilot studied the footage. "He goes left," one of the younger pilots said. "Correct, always left. Watch his next 3 breaks, left, left, left. Every time under pressure, he favors his left turn." "White habit," Kara suggested, "or injury, or our aircraft trim issue, or training bias. Doesn't matter. What matters is that I recognize the pattern after the 2nd break. By the 3rd break, I was already positioning for a left turn, and when he gave it to me, I was waiting." She let that sink in. Your opponents are human. They have habits, preferences, weaknesses. Your job is to find those weaknesses faster than they find yours. After the formal session ended, pilots stayed to ask questions, to discuss tactics, to argue about techniques. The briefing room had become something more than a training space. It had become a crucible where egos were melted down and reformed into something stronger. Ryan stayed every night. His questions became sharper, more focused. He stopped trying to impress and started trying to learn. One evening after everyone else had left, he lingered. "Can I ask you something personal?" he said. Adrian was packing up her laptop. You can ask, I might not answer. Why did you stay quiet for so long? You could have been teaching this way from the beginning. Could have been leading the squadron instead of shuffling papers. She looked at him for a long moment. My father was an F-16 pilot, one of the best. He advocated for female combat pilots back when that was a career-ending position to take. He made enemies, created friction, and when the pressure became too much, his focus slipped. Just for a second, just long enough. The training accident. Yes, I learned something from his death. Speaking up can get you killed. But excellence is an argument nobody can refute. Ryan nodded slowly. That's why you let me make an ass of myself in the mess hall. You wanted to see who I really was. Yes. And what did you decide? That you're someone worth teaching. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Something shifted in Ryan's expression. Respect, gratitude, and something else. Something neither of them was quite ready to name. Thank you, Captain. Adrian, when it's just us, you can call me Adrian. Then thank you, Adrian, for not giving up on me. She almost smiled. The night is young, Morrison. Don't make me regret it. Ghost Maddox arrived on a Tuesday morning in early September. Adrian was in her office reviewing fuel consumption reports when her desk phone rang. Colonel Hendricks, Captain Blackwell, I have someone here who wants to see you. Can you come to my office? On my way, ma'am. She found Ghost sitting in one of Hendricks' chairs, thinner than she remembered, his skin pale, an oxygen cannula in his nose. But his eyes were still sharp, still alive with the intelligence that had made him a legend. Hello, Adrian. Ghost. She wanted to hug him, but his fragility made her hesitate. You should have called. I would have picked you up from the airport. Didn't want to make a fuss. Besides, the colonel was kind enough to send a car. Hendricks stood. I'll give you two some privacy. Captain, take the rest of the day if you need it. Thank you, ma'am. When they were alone, Ghost gestured to the empty chair. Sit. Tell me about the engagement. I've read the official report, but I want to hear it from you. Adrian sat, told him everything. The mess hall scene, the flankers, the furball, the 7 kills. Ghost listened without interrupting his expression, neutral, absorbing every detail. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Your father would have been proud, he finally said. Hell, I'm proud. 7 kills in one mission. Most pilots never see that in a career. You taught me well. I taught you the basics. You developed the rest on your own. He coughed, a wet, rattling sound that made Adrienne's chest tighten. But that's not why I'm here. I need to tell you something. Intelligence is hearing chatter. The enemy is planning something specific. They're targeting you. Me specifically. They're calling it a matter of honor. You embarrassed them, killed 7 of their pilots, including some of their best. They're sending someone to settle accounts. Who? Ghost pulled a folder from his bag, slid it across the desk. Colonel Alexei Volkov, Russian, 59 years old, 32 confirmed kills, veteran of Chechnya, Georgia, Syria, currently working as a military contractor for whoever pays best. Adrian opened the folder, studied the photograph, a hard face weathered by decades of combat, eyes that had seen too much death. I know him, Ghost said quietly. Flew against him in 1991, Gulf War. We tangled over the northern no-fly zone, fought to a draw. He was in an early model MiG-29, I was in an F-15. We went 3 rounds before we both had to break off for fuel. What's he like? Skilled, aggressive, honorable in his way. He respects the old codes, the warrior codes. If he's coming for you, it'll be a fair fight. But his employers might not share his sense of honor. If Volkov is the distraction, there could be something else happening, something worse. Adrian closed the folder. When intelligence estimates 2 weeks, maybe 3, he's making preparations, arranging the terms. Terms? He's going to challenge you, publicly, on the tactical frequencies where everyone can hear. 1 aircraft, 1 pilot, single combat. Adrian leaned back in her chair, a formal duel, like something from another century, another age. And if I refuse, he'll target the squadron. Pick off your wingmen one by one until you have no choice. Better to settle it directly. You think I should accept? I think you're going to accept regardless of what I think. You're your father's daughter. You don't run from fights. He was right. She knew it. He knew it. Ghost reached across the desk, placed his hand over hers. His skin was thin and cold, but his grip was still strong. You're ready for this, Adrian. I've trained you for every scenario, but I need you to understand something. Volkov is different from the pilots you've faced. He's not reckless. He's not overconfident. He's a professional who's been doing this for 40 years. You'll need to be perfect. I will be. I know. He squeezed her hand once, then let go. Now tell me about this Ryan Morrison I've been hearing about. The one who was running his mouth in the mess hall. Adrian almost laughed. How did you hear about that? I still have friends on base. They tell me things. His eyes twinkled with amusement. They also tell me he's been showing up to your training sessions every night. Learning, asking smart questions. Apparently you've reformed him. He's reforming himself. I'm just providing guidance. That's what your father did for me once upon a time. Knocked the ego out of me and taught me to fly smart instead of flashy. Ghost stood slowly, steadying himself with a hand on the desk. Keep teaching, Adrian. These pilots need what you know. And when Volkov comes, show him that Ghost Maddox's last student was his best. The challenge came 3 days later. Adrian was running a training session on defensive tactics when the tactical frequency crackled to life. The voice was accented but clear, deliberate. This is Colonel Alexei Volkov to the American pilot called Viper. I know you hear this transmission. 7 of my comrades you killed. Skilled pilots, brave men. This cannot stand unanswered. The briefing room went silent. Every pilot stopped what they were doing. I challenge you, Volkov continued. 1 aircraft, 1 pilot, you and me. We settle this with honor, not hiding behind technology and numbers. Single combat. Accept and I give my word that only you and I will fight. Refuse and I will hunt your squadron until you have no choice. The transmission repeated twice more than cut off. Adrian stood frozen, her laser pointer still aimed at the screen. Every eye in the room was on her. Ryan spoke first. It's a trap. Has to be. No way he fights fair. Maybe, Adrian said quietly, but if I don't respond, he'll do exactly what he said. Target our patrols. Pick us off one by one. People will die. Then we all fight, Kara said. He wants a squadron engagement that we give him one. No, Adrian set down the laser pointer. That's not what he's asking for. He wants single combat, pilot against pilot. If I refuse that, we lose the moral high ground. The moral high ground doesn't matter if you're dead, Ryan said. Adrian looked at him. Yes, it does. My father taught me that. Ghost reinforced it. How you fight matters as much as whether you win. She walked to the window, looked out at the flight line. Her F-16 sat in its revetment, ready, waiting, like it always was. I'm going to accept. Adrian, you can't. I can, and I will. She turned back to face the room. This is what I've been training for my entire career. Ghost prepared me for exactly this kind of engagement. And Volkov is right about one thing. This needs to be settled directly. Colonel Hendricks entered the room. I heard the transmission. The decision is above your pay grade, Captain. Ma'am, with respect, I'm the only one he's calling out. This is my fight. Hendricks studied her for a long moment. Walk with me. They left the briefing room, walked along the flight line in silence. The Nevada sun was setting, painting the desert in shades of amber and gold. You understand this could be your last mission, Hendricks said. Yes, ma'am. You understand that if you die out there, the enemy gains a propaganda victory. They kill the American female ace, prove their point about women in combat. I understand, but they're wrong. And the only way to prove that is to beat their best. Ghost thinks you're ready. You talked to him. He called me this morning, said that if you decide to accept, I should authorize it. Said you're the finest pilot he's ever trained. Adrian felt emotion tighten her throat. Ghost's approval meant more than any medal. I've already made my decision, ma'am. I'm asking for your permission to execute it. Hendricks stopped walking, looked up at the darkening sky where stars were beginning to appear. Your father once told me something. Said that sometimes the only way to honor the dead is to refuse to let their sacrifices be in vain. He died fighting for what he believed in. You're fighting for the same thing. Yes, ma'am. Then you have my authorization. Full support, radar surveillance, emergency response on standby. But you're right about one thing. This has to be your fight. Single combat. Thank you, ma'am. Don't thank me yet. Just come back alive. That night, Adrienne sat alone in her quarters, writing a letter she hoped would never be read. A letter to her mother, explaining everything. The secret missions, the hidden identity, the 15 kills, the challenge. She told her mother that she had found purpose in the sky. That every time she strapped into an F-16, she felt her father's presence. That ghost had given her the tools to become something more than she thought possible. She told her mother that she was not afraid. That was mostly true. She sealed the letter, placed it in her desk drawer, and tried to sleep. Tomorrow she would respond to Volkov's challenge. Tomorrow she would prepare for a duel that would either cement her legend or end her life. Outside her window, the Nevada stars burned cold and bright. Somewhere out there, Alexei Volkov was preparing for the same fight, checking his aircraft, running through tactics, thinking about honor and death and the thin line between the two. Two pilots, two aircraft, one sky, the old ways, the honorable ways. Dawn would come soon enough. The night before the duel, Adrienne stood alone in her quarters, staring at the photograph she kept on her desk. Her father in his flight suit standing beside his F-16, squinting into the California sun. 23 years of service captured in a single image. He looked invincible. He had been 46 when that photograph was taken. 2 weeks later, he was dead. Adrienne picked up the photo frame, traced the outline of his face with one finger. She had his eyes, his stubborn jaw, his hands built for precision work. "I hope I make you proud tomorrow," she whispered. The photograph offered no answer. It never did. She set it down carefully, pulled out her desk drawer, and retrieved a sheet of paper and a pen. The letter she had started 3 days ago sat there unfinished. Now she needed to complete it. "Dear Mom, if you're reading this, then I didn't come back from the mission. I need you to know some things I should have told you years ago. I didn't become a logistics officer. I became what Dad was, a fighter pilot, a hunter, someone who protects others by being better than the people trying to hurt them. I have 20 confirmed kills. I know that number will seem impossible. Dad would have understood. Ghost understands. It's not about the number. It's about doing the job right. I'm not afraid of dying. I'm afraid of dying without purpose. Tomorrow I fight for something that matters. Honor, duty, the belief that excellence transcends everything else. Dad died fighting for what he believed in. If I die tomorrow, I'll be doing the same. I love you. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you the truth before now. Adrienne." She folded the letter, placed it in an envelope, and wrote her mother's address in careful script, left it in the center of her desk where someone would find it. Then she tried to sleep. The knock came at 2300 hours. Adrienne was still awake, staring at the ceiling, running through tactical scenarios in her mind. She opened the door to find Ryan Morrison standing in the hallway, still in his flight suit, looking uncertain. "Can't sleep either," he asked. "Something like that." "Can I come in?" She stepped aside. Ryan entered, looked around at her sparse quarters. No decorations, no personal items except the photograph. A room that belonged to someone who lived for the mission and nothing else. "You should be resting," Adrienne said. "Tomorrow. Tomorrow you're flying into a fight that could kill you. I'm not letting you spend the night alone thinking about it." Something in his voice made her look at him more carefully. The concern was genuine, raw. "I'm fine, Ryan." "No, you're not. Nobody's fine the night before something like this." He moved closer, his expression intense. "You're the best pilot I've ever seen. Better than anyone in the squadron. Better than most of the legends. But Volkov has 40 years of experience. He's survived wars that killed thousands of pilots. This isn't just another engagement." "I know what it is." "Then you know you might not come back." "Yes." Ryan reached out, took her hand. His palm was warm against hers. "I need you to come back," he said quietly. "Not just because the squadron needs you. Because I need you. These past few weeks, learning from you, seeing how you think, how you fly. You've changed everything for me. Made me want to be better. Made me realize what I've been missing." Adrienne felt her heart beating faster. This wasn't the cocky pilot from the mess hall. This was someone stripped down to raw honesty. Ryan, I know this is terrible timing. I know you're focused on tomorrow. But if something happens and I never said this, I'd regret it for the rest of my life. He leaned closer. For a moment, the space between them charged with possibility. Adrian could smell his aftershave, see the flecks of gold in his eyes. It would be so easy to close the distance, to take comfort in another person the night before facing death. Her radio crackled. Captain Blackwell, this is Colonel Hendricks. Sorry to disturb you. I have a phone call patching through from Ghost Maddox. Shall I transfer to your quarters? The moment broke. Ryan stepped back, something like disappointment and relief warring in his expression. Adrian crossed to her desk, picked up the phone. Transfer it, ma'am. A click. Then Ghost's voice, thin and tired, but still carrying that edge of authority. Adrian, you awake? Yes, sir. Good. I need to tell you some things. Things I should have said before. A pause, a cough. I've been thinking about your father, about the conversations we used to have. He always said you were special, had a gift for understanding three-dimensional combat that couldn't be taught. He taught me everything. He taught you the basics. You developed the rest. That vertical scissors you used against the flanker, that wasn't something from the manual. That was you understanding energy states at an instinctive level. Another pause. Tomorrow when you face Volkov, remember this. You're not fighting him. You're fighting his expectations. I don't understand. He expects a younger pilot, someone with faster reflexes but less experience. He'll test you early, push you hard, try to make you react emotionally. Don't give him that. Fly like I taught you. Patience, positioning, precision. The three Ps. The three Ps, and Adrian. One more thing. Yes, sir. You're already better than I was at your age. Better than your father was. You're the finest pilot I've ever trained. Tomorrow, you prove it to the world. Adrian felt emotion tighten her throat. Thank you, Ghost. Don't thank me. Just win. And when you do call me, I want to hear it from you. The line went dead. Ariane set down the phone, aware that Ryan was watching her. Was that really Ghost Maddox? He asked. Yes. What did he say? That I'm ready. She turned to face him. Ryan about before. I know, bad timing, but I meant what I said. Come back tomorrow, please. I'll do my best. That's all anyone can ask. He left without trying to kiss her again. Adrian appreciated that. Some moments were too fragile to force. She lay down, closed her eyes, and this time sleep came. Dawn broke cold and clear over the Nevada desert. Adrian was on the flight line by 0500, running her pre-flight inspection with Master Sergeant Dale Porter. The F-16 looked perfect. Fresh paint covering the shrapnel damage from the previous engagement. All systems green. Full fuel load. 2 AM-9X Sidewinders. Full 20mm ammunition. No AMRAAMs. This would be close-range work. She's ready, ma'am, Porter said. Anything happens out there, you've got the best aircraft I've ever maintained. I know, Dale. Thank you. Colonel Hendricks appeared accompanied by the squadron. They had all come to see her off. Ryan, Kara, the junior pilots, even the maintenance crews, standing silent in the pre-dawn darkness. Hendricks stepped forward. Captain Blackwell, your orders are as follows. Proceed to coordinates November 7-3. Engage enemy aircraft in single combat. Rules of engagement are flexible. Defend yourself by any means necessary. Emergency response is on standby at your discretion. Understood, ma'am. Adrian, Hendricks dropped the formality. This base has seen a lot of pilots come and go. None of them were like you. Come back safe. I will. Adrian climbed the ladder, settled into the cockpit. The familiar embrace of the ejection seat harness. The weight of the helmet. The neural connection to the aircraft that happened when pilot and machine became one. She ran through the startup sequence. Engine spooling up. Systems coming online. Weapons hot. Radio check. Tower Viper, ready for taxi. Copy Viper. Winds 270 at 12. Altimeter 30.02. You are cleared for immediate takeoff. Runway 27. Good hunting. Viper rolling. The takeoff was smooth. Gear up, flaps up. Climbing through 10,000 feet as the sun broke over the eastern horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Beautiful morning to Dom, Adrian thought, then pushed the thought away. She leveled at 20,000 feet, heading for the coordinates. Her radar showed empty sky. Then a single contact appeared, exactly where expected. Viper Tower, single bandit at your 12 o'clock 30 miles, Angels 20. Confirm identification as hostile. Standby tower. Adrian switched to the tactical frequency. Aircraft at coordinates November 7-3. This is Viper. Identify yourself. The response came immediately. Accented English, calm and professional. Viper, this is Colonel Alexei Volkov. I have been waiting. Are you ready to begin? Affirmative. Rules of engagement. Simple, you and me, single combat, no support, no interference. We fight until one of us wins or both of us eject. Honor demands fair contest. Agreed, break when ready. You have courage, Viper. Ghost Maddox trained you well. Adrian felt a spike of surprise. You know Ghost. I fought him 1991 over Iraq. We were young then. Neither of us could achieve kill. We fought to draw, then parted with respect. He was finest opponent I ever faced. Until now. The bandit marker on her radar was closing. 20 miles. 18. 16. Ghost speaks highly of you, Adrian said. He is generous. Today we see if his student learned his lessons well. Good luck, Viper. Good luck, Colonel. The merge came at Mach 1.2. Two aircraft screaming toward each other, combined closure rate over 1,500 miles per hour. Adrian saw the MiG-29 flash past gray camouflage against blue sky. Then both aircraft were turning burning energy, trying to gain position. Volkov was aggressive. He came at her hard, using the MiG's thrust vectoring to point his nose at impossible angles. His first missile shot came within seconds. Defending, Adrian broke hard right, dumping flares, destroying his lock with violent maneuvering. The R-77 missile streaked past close enough that she heard the warhead detonate when it lost track. She reversed, tried to get on his tail. He was already turning inside her, matching her move for move. This was different from the flankers. Volkov wasn't making mistakes. His second missile launch came from an angle that should have been impossible. Only the thrust vectoring gave him the shot. Depending on another break, more flares. The missile missed, but closer than the first. Adrian's warning system was screaming. He was pushing her, testing her, trying to force an error. The third missile hit, not a direct hit. The warhead detonated 50 meters behind her aircraft, but the shrapnel tore through her tail section. Warning lights flooded her cockpit, hydraulic pressure dropping. Flight control degraded. The F-16 started pulling left. Viper is hit. Tail damage. Continuing engagement. She fought the controls, compensated for the damage. The aircraft was still flyable, but no longer perfect. Every maneuver took more effort. Every turn bled more energy than it should. Volkov's voice came through. You are damaged. Eject now with honor. I will not pursue a wounded opponent. Negative. I'm still in this fight. As you wish. You have courage. They merged again. This time Adrian forced the engagement into a phone booth fight. Close range. High aspect. Where his thrust vectoring advantage was reduced and her damaged aircraft's unpredictability became an asset. She lined up a head-on pass. Dangerous. Stupid. The kind of thing no sane pilot attempted. Both aircraft roaring toward each other, combined closure over Mach 2. Her finger on the trigger. Waiting. 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 Now the 20-millimeter cannon roared. 6,000 rounds per minute tearing through the air. She walked the rounds across the MiG's flight path, leading the target by instinct and experience. Hits. The MiG's left wing erupted in sparks and smoke. Hydraulic lines severed. Control surfaces damaged. The aircraft rolled violently to the left. They passed canopy to canopy, close enough that Adrian saw Volkov's face. Hard. Focused. Impressed. Good shooting, Viper. Very good. But the MiG was still flying. Damaged but not destroyed. Volkov was fighting for control. His aircraft trailing smoke, losing altitude. Adrian turned hard, trying to capitalize on her advantage. But her own damage was worsening. The left turn was becoming sluggish. The warning lights were multiplying. She lined up for another gun pass. This one would finish it. Then her radar warning receiver exploded with new contacts. Two aircraft coming in fast from the west. Not part of the duel. Viper Tower. We have two additional bandits entering the battle space, MiG-29s. They're not supposed to be there. Adrian's blood ran cold. Ambush. Volkov's voice erupted over the radio, angry, betrayed. No, this is my fight, you dishonor me. Disengage immediately. The response came in Russian-accented English from one of the new arrivals. Orders from Command Colonel. Eliminate the American, complete the mission. I gave my word, single combat honor demands. Honor is luxury for old men. Kill her or we will. Adrian watched her tactical display update. Two fresh MiG-29s. Full weapons load. Her aircraft damaged. One Sidewinder remaining. Limited gun ammunition. The odds had just become impossible. Volkov's voice came through again, directed at her. Viper, eject, now. They will not honor the duel. They will kill you. Neither will I abandon the fight, Colonel. Then I remove myself as complication. Understand this, Viper. You are worthy opponent. What happens next is not my doing. She saw the ejection on her radar. Volkov's MiG continued flying unmanned for several seconds, then began a lazy spin toward the desert floor. The colonel was descending under a parachute, removing himself from the equation. Honor. Even in betrayal, he maintained it. Now it was Adrienne against two fresh enemies. Damaged aircraft, limited weapons, no support. She keyed her radio. Tower Viper, engaging two bandits. I'm in bad shape. Could use backup if available. Ryan's voice came through immediately. Viper Hawk, I'm launching now. Hold on, 5 minutes. 5 minutes. She had to survive 5 minutes. The two MiGs came at her from different angles. Classic pincer, one high, one low, forcing her to choose which threat to defend against. She chose neither. Instead, she dove hard, using gravity to gain speed her damaged aircraft couldn't generate on its own. The MiGs followed their superior thrust in allowing them to close the distance. Good. That's what she wanted. At 5,000 feet, screaming toward the desert floor at 600 knots, Adrienne pulled hard. Maximum G. The aircraft shuddered, protesting the abuse. Warning lights became a solid wall of red. The trailing MiG tried to follow. Pulled too hard. His nose dropped below the horizon and he couldn't recover in time. He impacted the desert floor at Mach 0.9, a fireball that bloomed like a flower. One down. But the second MiG pilot was smart. He hadn't followed her into the suicide dive. He was above her now, diving to engage missile lock achieved. Adrienne had no flares left. No chaff. Nothing but damaged aircraft and dwindling options. The MiG pilot's voice came through. Base strike team is inbound. Or distracted. Your base will burn while you die here. The real plan. The duel was a distraction. Volkov was an unwitting pawn. The actual objective was hitting Alizad while their best pilot was tied up in the desert. Tower Viper, confirm enemy strike package inbound to base. Confirmed multiple contacts bearing 090 were launching full defense. The MiG above her fired. R-77 missile tracking perfectly. 2 seconds to impact. Adrienne did the only thing left. She put her damaged F-16 into a flat spin. Deliberate, controlled chaos. The missile's seeker had lost lock on the spinning target, detonated harmlessly 100 meters away. But now she was spinning toward the desert floor at 3,000 feet, 2,000, 1,500. She kicked opposite rudder, used the damaged tail's unpredictability to break the spin. The aircraft recovered at 800 feet, so low she could see individual rocks. The MiG pilot was coming around for another pass, confident now. His opponent was damaged low on altitude, out of options. He never saw Ryan Morrison's F-16 coming from above. Viper brake right, Adrienne broke right. Ryan's AM-9X Sidewinder streaked through the space where she had been a second ago, locked onto the enemy MiG's hot exhaust. The missile impacted dead center. The MiG exploded into fragments. Splash one, Ryan called. Viper, what's your status? Damaged but flyable. We need to get back to base, now. They turned together, two F-16s racing across the desert toward Alizad. Behind them, Volkov's parachute drifted toward the sand. Ahead, the battle was already beginning. The strike on Alizad Air Base was well coordinated. 6 MiG-29s coming in low and fast from the east, time to arrive while the base's best defenders were away, but the squadron had learned from the previous attack. They were ready. Adrian and Ryan arrived to find a furball already in progress. Kara Sullivan was engaged with 2 bandits. 3 other F-16s were mixing it up with the remaining enemies. Missiles streaking, guns firing, chaos. "Viper is Winchester on missiles," Adrian called. "Guns only, engaging." Her damaged aircraft responded like a drunk fighter, sluggish, unpredictable. But she had enough control for close-range work. She identified a MiG harassing one of the junior pilots. Came in from his blind spot. Got inside minimum missile range where he couldn't shoot without hitting himself. Guns. The 20mm cannon roared one last time, her final 100 rounds tearing through the MiG's fuselage. Engine fire. Hydraulic failure. Pilot ejecting. Splash 2 for Viper. Her ammunition counter hit 0. She was now completely defenseless. But the squadron was rallying, fresh aircraft launching from the base. The numerical advantage shifting. The remaining MiGs broke off and ran. 3 destroyed, 3 retreating. The strike had failed. "All aircraft tower. Threat is clear. Return to base for rearm and refuel." Ariane's hands were shaking on the stick, adrenaline crash hitting hard. She had been in continuous combat for 20 minutes. An eternity when people were trying to kill you. "Viper Hawk, you did good, real good. Couldn't have done it without you, Ryan." "Yeah, you could have, but I'm glad I was there anyway." Landing with damaged hydraulics was tricky. Adrian came in fast and high, used every meter of runway. The F-16 touched down hard, bounced once, then settled. She deployed the drag chute and rolled to a stop. When she shut down the engine, the silence was deafening. The entire squadron was waiting on the flight line, again. But this time there was no surprise, only respect. They had all seen her fight, seen her win against impossible odds. Colonel Hendricks pushed through the crowd. "Captain Blackwell, outstanding work. Full mission debrief in 1 hour." "Yes, ma'am." Adrian climbed down from the cockpit, her legs unsteady. "What's our status?" "No losses. 3 enemy destroyed over base. 2 destroyed in your engagement. Volkov recovered safely in custody. He's requesting to speak with you." "To me?" "Specifically, he says he has information to share." They found Volkov in the detention facility sitting calmly despite being in enemy custody. He stood when Adrian entered, nodded with respect. "Captain Blackwell, Viper, I am pleased you survived. You kept your word, Colonel, ejected rather than participate in the ambush. I won't forget that. Honor is not conditional, is either present or absent." He gestured to the chair across from him. "Please, sit. I have things to tell you." Adrian sat. "My employers," Volkov continued, "are not honorable men. They used me, used challenge as distraction. Real target was always your base. I am old fool. Should have seen it. You fought fairly. That matters. Your mentor, Ghost Maddox, he taught you well. That gun passed the head on. Very dangerous. Very brave. He would be proud." "I hope so. I know so. I fought him, saw his skill. You have same skill, same courage. Gender means nothing. Skill is skill. You are worthy ace." Adrian felt something release in her chest. Validation from an enemy who understood what combat meant, what honor cost. "Thank you, Colonel. One more thing. Your final count. 20 confirmed kills." Volkov smiled. "Then you are now more dangerous than I. This pleases me. Means the next generation is better than the old. As it should be." The squadron ready room felt different now. The same space where Adrian had run training sessions, but charged with new energy. The kill board on the wall had been updated. Viper 20. Below it, someone had added they didn't know. Then they found out. Ryan found her staring at it. "Pretty impressive number." "It's just a number." "No, it's not. It's a statement. Proof that skill matters more than assumptions." Kara approached her flight suit, still damp with sweat from the engagement. "Captain Blackwell, will you continue the training sessions? Every evening at 1800, unless you're sick of me by then." "Never." Kara smiled. "I want to learn everything you know." "That'll take a while." I have time. Adrienne's phone rang. She stepped outside to answer it. This is Captain Blackwell. Ghost's voice weaker than before but jubilant. 20 kills. I heard. The intelligence network is on fire with it. You're a legend now, Adrienne. I'm just a pilot doing my job. You're the finest pilot I ever trained, and your father would have been so damn proud. You proved everything he believed in. Adrienne felt tears threatening. Thank you, Ghost, for everything. For believing in me when nobody else did. Didn't believe in you, knew you, big difference. A cough. Keep teaching those pilots. Pass it forward. That's how we honor the dead, by making sure the living learn. I will. Good. Now get some rest. You've earned it. The sun was setting over the Nevada desert when Adrienne finally made it back to her quarters. She was exhausted, bruised, emotionally drained, but alive. She picked up her father's photograph, looked at his face, his eyes. We did it, Dad, she whispered. 20 kills. Highest in the squadron, highest in the Air Force. And I did it your way. Excellence over argument, action over words. She opened her desk drawer, retrieved the letter she had written, the one meant to be sent if she died, tore it into pieces. A knock on the door. Ryan again. Bad time, he asked. Never a bad time for you. He entered, closed the door behind him. I wanted to say something last night, before the mission. Didn't get the chance. Say it now. You're the bravest person I've ever met. Not because you are fearless, because you're terrified and you do it anyway. That's real courage. Adrienne looked at him. This man who had been an arrogant instructor a month ago and was now someone she trusted with her life. Thank you for coming when I needed you, she said. That kill saved my life. You would have figured something out. You always do. Maybe, but I'm glad I didn't have to. Ryan stepped closer. The space between them charged again with possibility. But this time, no radio interrupted, no phone call, just two people who had survived something impossible together. Adrienne, he said softly. Can I? She kissed him. Finally. And for a moment, the weight of 20 kills and a dead father and a dying mentor lifted. For a moment, she was just a woman kissing a man who understood her. Really understood her. When they broke apart, Ryan was smiling. Been wanting to do that for weeks. Me too. So what happens now? Now I keep teaching, keep flying, keep proving that my father was right, that Ghost was right, that excellence matters more than expectations. And us. We figure it out, one day at a time. He kissed her again. And Adrienne and Blackwell, call sign Viper, 20 confirmed kills, the highest scoring pilot in American service, allowed herself to be just a person for a little while longer. Outside, the Nevada stars were beginning to appear, cold and bright and infinite. Somewhere in those stars, her father was watching. And somewhere in a hospital bed, Ghost was smiling. They had all fought for the same thing: honor, duty, the belief that skill transcended everything else. And in the end, they had won. The squadron would fly again tomorrow. New missions, new threats, new challenges. But tonight, Adrienne Blackwell rested. She had earned it. They didn't know she was an F-16 pilot until enemy attack forced her to reveal 20 kills and prove that excellence has no gender. Now they knew, and they would never forget.